Thank you to those of you who are signed on. This is just sort of an extension of a luncheon we did a few weeks ago where we introduced some great resources to use for election education and voter education stuff on campus. I'm just going to hand this over to some other folks to talk about the resources that they have available. I do want to point out, and I'm going to put this in the chat as well, that we do have all of this stuff linked on our website. So that is in the chat. And then we'll also post this on our website and send this out again to everyone who signed up, and also just generally on our website, since we know a lot of folks are gearing up to do stuff around the election coming up in 22 days, as Nicole and I were just talking about. So I'm going to start by introducing, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Natalie from Illinois Campus Compact. And I'm going to start by introducing Nicole, who's coming from BallotReady, and she's going to talk about some of the resources they have. And then we're going to talk to Casey from State Matters, and Byron is going to talk about SEEP. So Nicole, if you want to get started.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm going to share my screen with you so that I can show you these resources as we talk about them. As Natalie mentioned, my name is Nicole. I am the Director of Voter Outreach at BallotReady, and I want to share some resources with you to help engage your students around voter education and help mobilize them to get them to the polls in the next few weeks. So at BallotReady, the problem that we're looking to solve is helping voters feel prepared and confident when they walk into the voting booth. We know that voting can be intimidating, especially for first-time voters, especially for young voters. And so we want to help them feel on their ballot, not just on and if you're not muted, if you go ahead and mute yourself, that would be great for the time being. We know that it is incredibly difficult to feel prepared to vote all the way down ballot. So across the country, there are more than 500,000 elected officials. 96% of them are local elected officials, and yet and those people have huge impact on our everyday lives, right? From funding for roads and monitoring our drinking water to making decisions that impact our campuses. These people have huge impact, but we don't know much about them. And so we want to help voters, all voters, but especially young voters and first-time voters, feel better prepared to make decisions on the state and local level, as well as at the federal level. Because we don't want them to guess. We don't want them to leave their ballot blank. We want them to feel like they can fill out the entire thing and make informed choices. So we put together nonpartisan voter guides for every race and referendum on the ballot to make it easier to vote prepared. So this tool is completely digital. I'm going to take you to the website and show it to you in just a second. And it just allows voters to look at information on all of the candidates ahead of time and make sure they have a plan filling out that ballot before they go to the voting booth. So let me actually just take you to the website. So this is the BallotReady website. All you do when you go to the website is enter your address. We don't make you create a login. We don't make you enter any more information than this. You just enter your address so that we can pull up your ballot. And then you hit the Get Started button. And when you hit the Get Started button, you'll see your ballot information pulled up in a voter guide. On the left, you can toggle through different types of candidates. So federal races, state, local, judicial candidates. And yeah, so many. There are, of my ballot, I think there's 95 races on my ballot, and more than 60 are judges. So lots of judicial candidates. And
but that's only for Cook County. Don't worry. If you're not in Cook County, you don't have to.
If you're out of Cook County, you won't see that. But here in Cook County, that's what we've got. And then ballot measures, they're available as well. So I'm going to scroll back to the top. Using the site's pretty simple. All you do, so you can see your progress here in the top left, you select an election. And in the middle, you'll see the candidates for that election. You can select either candidate by clicking on their photo and scroll down to see information about those candidates. So we gather all of our information on candidates in the same way. It's completely nonpartisan. We do not endorse or manipulate the information at all. We simply gather information from credible candidate websites and we put it all in one place for you. So if a candidate has a campaign website, a Facebook, a LinkedIn, we gather the information from all of those places. We link to them here for you. And we link every piece of information so you could click through and see exactly where it's coming from. We want to be really transparent so voters can feel like they trust the information. So for candidates, you'll see their personal, their biographical experience and education. If they list any issue stances on their websites, you'll see those listed as well. And then if they've been endorsed, you'll see those endorsements listed. And we keep adding to these as we get them. So we'll keep adding all the way up to election day as more information about candidates comes in. And then once you've looked at the candidates and you're ready to make a selection, you just click Add to My Ballot in the middle. And on the left, you'll see that I've made progress by selecting a candidate for one office. So you can do this for your whole ballot. And then what's really great about this is you can take it into the voting booth with you. So the site is mobile friendly. Students can pull this up on their phones. They don't have to download an app because no one wants to download an app for just one day. But they can pull up the website. And then when they're finished, they can either print their ballot. In Chicago, it's lengthy, so I'm not going to print mine, but I am going to email it to myself. So I have it in my inbox. I can just open it up when I go to the voting booth. Or if you want to do this in a few, like prepare your ballot in a few different sessions, you could also create a sign-in up here in the top right corner and come back and keep making selections as more information becomes available or as you prepare over time to go to the voting booth. So lots of different options to save your voter guide. So this is our main tool. We think it's really easy to use. It's great and friendly for students to get all the information they need. But we also offer, and I want to show you the second tool, up here in the right corner, it says Find Your Polling Place. So this second tool is great for campuses because it also allows students to make a plan to vote by giving them all of their options based on their voting address. So when you go to this tool, you've already entered your address. You will see all of your early and day of voting options on a calendar. You can choose a day. I'm going to say that I'm early voting on the 25th. And it will show you early voting or day of polling place options based on your address. So then I can choose a polling place that I'm going to early vote. And I can select a time based on when that polling place is open. So I'm going to go over my lunch break on the 25th. And once I've selected those options, I can then sign up for email or text reminders to get reminded and follow through on the plan to vote that I've made. So this is a great tool for students. Again, it's mobile friendly so that they can actually think through that process of going to vote and have a plan in mind. Rather than just winging it the day of the election. So those are our tools. We have a variety of resources that we share with campuses to help them share these tools with students. And those contain things from like social media kits and flyers and postcards. We've got a lot of different things that we can share with you, and I'm happy to do that. So after Casey and Byron get to chat, if you have any questions or if you want to connect with me, I'll put my email address in the chat box so that you and I can connect and I can share those resources with you if you're interested. All right.
Great. Thank you so much. Casey, you want to talk a little bit about state matters?
Sure. So, hello, I am Casey Smith, and I am the Executive Director of State Matters. We are a new nonprofit, relatively new nonprofit here in Illinois, that we're focused on how frickin' frustrating it is that we don't understand how state and local government works, and that it shouldn't be this difficult to get information about how state and local government works, and it shouldn't be this boring to get information about how state and local government works. So we're working with artists, mostly based in Chicago, but we've got a couple folks across the state and are definitely looking to broaden the creatives that we're working with. We work with artists, filmmakers, comedians, writers, animators, illustrators to create content that is kind of like an updated Schoolhouse Rock that explains not only things having to do with elections, but also state legislation that's being proposed in Springfield, how state budgets work, what a pension is, how property taxes work, how your schools are funded, all of that nitty-gritty stuff that we aren't necessarily learning in civics class, if we even had a civics class. So what we're doing with BallotReady, which we're super jazzed about, is this ballot party initiative. So we're encouraging folks to actually make it a social event, to use the BallotReady website to research your ballot. But I think that something that's really important is actually extending the invitation to vote to your friends. And I think that that's a really, really powerful thing that a lot of times it feels like, politics isn't something we're supposed to be talking about, or it's not particularly, it's not cool, or it's divisive, or like you don't know kind of who falls on what end of what spectrum. And I think that that fear of talking about politics, or that feeling like, okay, well, I'll post on Instagram that I voted, and then like my friends will see it and that'll be enough. It's not enough. We all know people who aren't voting. We all know people who are maybe intimidated by voting and just let the day go by without, being brave enough to actually ask the questions of like, but wait, how do I tell if I'm registered? Where do I actually go to vote? What the heck is a county commissioner, and why should I vote for that? And why should I care, right? So this ballot party initiative, we have created a suite of tools related to the BallotReady website. They're party games. One of them is this placemat that's like a kind of Candyland style walkthrough of your ballot that like gives you all of the information, all of the little tips and tricks, what the different offices do to really help you kind of get through all the way to the end of your ballot. And those ballot parties are anything from like you getting a couple people together in your dorm, you getting a couple people together at your local coffee shop, or we've got folks that are doing like big, like blowout ballot parties. We have one that's like a slam poetry storytelling open mic ballot party, which I'm super stoked about. We also have some bars and restaurants that are hosting ballot parties that are going to have these resources available for people that come in to eat or get drinks. So these can take a lot of different forms. Like we have a brewery that's doing one, which is super, super cool. With the idea of like making this a less intimidating thing and having you be able to research your ballot in a place that you're already comfortable, right? Like with the people that you already know. I think that for most of us, the only time that we're told to vote or get an invitation to vote, it's from political campaigns. And I think that that's not always the most effective person to be hearing that from, right? Like, I mean, speaking for myself, I kind of tune out anytime I feel like something's coming from like a candidate running for office. I'm like, all right, boring, switch, skip ad, like I'm done. So I think that it's really, really important for us to actually like do the work, be accountable for ourselves, but also for our friend groups, for the people that we associate with, and for honestly the people that trust us and the people that, trust that we're going to do right by them and lead them down a right road. So that's the ballot parties. If you want to sign up, you can sign up through statematters.org, which will take you to our shared BallotReady State Matters website that has a really terrible URL, so I'm not even going to try and put it in here. Just go to statematters.org and there's a link. So if you sign up to do a ballot party, there's some questions about like when and how many people and all that sort of stuff that can change. So you can kind of craft it as you go. But the important thing is we'll send you, swag and stickers and toolkits and marketing images and all that good stuff for Facebook events and whatnot. And if you have any questions, please, please, please ask me. We've had a couple ballot parties now, and it's been super, super interesting. We did one like kickoff. This is like maybe a week or, I don't know, time has no meaning. A week or two ago. When was this, Nicole? I don't know. And one of the more interesting things that came out of that for me was I was kind of like popping around and like connecting people who didn't necessarily know each other. And I was like, here, you two, like now you love each other, sit down and like fill out your ballot. And they kind of sit down with their phones and the little like placemat game and like fill out their ballot. We also did a thing, since that was a bigger party, where we had some MCs that every time someone finished filling out their ballot, they like got their name shouted out over the mic. It was super cute. So yeah, so if you have any like questions or ideas, I think that the more creative, the better. And also the more like true to whoever you are and whoever the group of students is, like whatever feels like something they would be wanting to do anyways, the better. So yeah, so that's ballot parties. And I'll also throw my email in the chat. And of course, if you're interested in the other stuff that State Matters is doing outside of this election, we'll be turning around and doing this for the city elections that are happening in Chicago in February, and then in a couple other municipalities in March, April. So depending on where folks are located, we'll be making some more content for that as well. But again, I'm Casey, and let's like turn out the frickin' vote, right? Let's do it. So excited.
Thank you so much. Byron, you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with SEEP?
Yeah, definitely. So hi, everybody. My name is Byron Terry. I work with Campus Election Engagement Project. So basically, let me share my screen. What SEEP does is work with college students. It focuses on empowering college students. So how that is done is it makes the college students fellows. These fellows work with a state network, and they also work with a national network to receive resources, trainings, and other things to just support the voting process or the college registration process of first-time college voters or young voters in the 18 to 24 student range. Like I mentioned before, what we do is basically provide these fellows with different types of resources. They become a part of the fellow program. Let's see. So these resources are national trainings. They're also nonpartisan guides as well for candidates. You can go on the website, you can see just a brief overview of some of the fellows that are participating all over the state. So they joined this network and support group to because here at SEEP, once we empower the students to vote, they'll be able to use that and empower other students on their campus to vote as well. So we've been doing that throughout Illinois. Illinois is the state that I work with. We create these Google document files just because Google Docs is just easier to share. There's other ways that we can distribute information as well. But in these files, you can see that we have the nonpartisan guides, overviews for the fellows, handbooks, different ideas, action guides, and plans as well. So that way the fellows can you just create plans for how they plan on engaging with the campus. We ask that the fellows do about 6 events per semester. There's only going to be one semester, obviously, because it's around this next upcoming election. But we asked them to do 6 events that deal with voter registration, voter education, and just different things of that nature. After they do those events, they then go to an activity guide. So this activity tracker is super simple. They have one for each state. And the tracker basically tracks the events, who they got registered, and everything like that. This information is then given to the school and also used by SEEP to see what's working, what's not working, and everything like that. Along with the resources that we provide, we also provide T-shirts, posters, banners, and and also some funding as well. to just support whatever they have going on campus. So it's really, like I said, about empowering that student and getting that student involved so they could get other students involved as well. I'm more than happy to share any of the resources that we do have as well. If you want that information, just please, I'll drop my email in, email me. I'll be happy to share that with you guys. That was a really brief and quick overview, but we have about some time to definitely go into it more.
Great. So does anyone have any burning questions for any of the folks that just spoke? Oh, did we lose Nicole? Well, if you have any questions, we can.
I can answer a lot of the Nicole questions.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I just got kicked out for a second for some reason.
All right.
Does anybody have any questions? Either you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat. All right, well, I'll start with a question while other folks are thinking. So since you've already done a couple of ballot parties in Byron, I know that SEEP has already done some events on campuses. Have there been any sort of unintended things that have happened that have surprised you, or questions that people have that you didn't know that people were thinking about, especially students?
The biggest issue that we are running into, or the biggest question that everybody has no matter what their age, is having to do with the judicial elections. They're super confusing because they're not set up in the way that I think we think of elections. It's not always, oh, here are several candidates running for a seat and you will pick one of them. So with judicial elections, and one of the reasons that Cook County has 60 is a lot of judges every couple of years they'll be up for a retention election, which means that they're already a judge, and you're just voting yes or no on them. And judges need to get 60% of people who vote on them to vote yes in order to keep their seat. So this is essentially a mechanism here in Illinois for firing bad judges, essentially. This doesn't happen very often because actually a lot of people just skip the judges section or just don't vote there. So it's fairly easy for judges to get 60% because a lot of people will just vote yes or, just won't think about it. In Cook County in particular, we have 3 judges right now who are not recommended by bar associations. So there's a kind of a big push to try and get folks more aware that, to keep an eye out in that sea of 60 for those 3 and vote no on them. And the way that you go about evaluating judges, because they're people that you've never heard of, right? Like, there are bar associations. Voteforjudges.org is a website outside of also obviously BallotReady, I think, is pulling from voteforjudges.org. Is this accurate? I don't know if y'all use all of the bar associations that Vote for Judges does.
I don't know if we use all of the same because we pull from the different bar associations directly. They're qualified, non-qualified.
The nice thing about Vote for Judges is I'm fairly certain that it aggregates all of the different bar associations. And bar associations are basically they're groups of lawyers that get together of various sizes, and some of them are focused on specific regions, some of them are focused on specific demographics. So there's like the Latino Bar Association or the LGBT Bar Association. So depending on kind of what your priorities are as a voter, you can look to those bar associations and see what their recommendations are for judges, since they have a slightly different lens depending. So yeah, and I would say, like, for most judges, they're fine. So the easiest way to go about actually evaluating the judges is finding which ones are not recommended and kind of tracking those and voting yes on all the rest of them. So like, get your no's, remember the no's, and then, you can kind of.
So we did have a question in the chat specifically about the judges. So the question was, do we need to vote for every judge on the ballot for the ballot to count?
No.
So you can kind of pick and choose based on what you know or what you don't know. And
Yep, you're allowed to leave elections blank throughout the ballot, and your ballot is still counted for the elections that you vote on.
Great. I think I think a lot of people are intimidated by that and think, well, if I don't fill out the thing completely, it's like a Scantron, right?
Oh, for sure. No, it's very intimidating. I will say this because Chicago Bar Foundation will get mad at me if I don't say this. So we're working with the Chicago Bar Foundation, and actually we're putting out a video this week about judicial elections that explain on social media, so check that out. But so in working with the Chicago Bar Foundation, I've gotten an inside look into what just makes these judges shake in their little booties. So apparently there's a new thing that's happening where there are larger numbers of people that are choosing to just vote no on all the judges, as a little bit of like a rebellion vote or something. I don't know. And actually our Governor Rauner, tisk tisk, naughty man, he accidentally had a picture taken of him with his ballot and showed the back of his ballot, which was the judges section, and he voted no on all of the judges. So
wow.
be sure to say, like, that is very rebellious, but it's not necessarily the most responsible way to vote. And there are good judges that are concerned if more people start doing that will end up accidentally kicking out judges that are very good and are doing good work. And I would say, especially right now with some concerns, there's been a very big hearing at the federal level and a lot of concerns or ideas from certain groups of people about judges and judge qualifications. So there's some fear from local judges that there's going to be a general kind of backlash against all judges.
Yeah.
So just to say, you can leave it blank, but Chicago Bar Foundation would want me to tell you there are a lot of really good judges and they really need your vote. So
we had another question in the chat, Byron. I'm not sure if I know the answer to this, and you might know the answer to this. So they're wondering about if it's still possible to nominate a SEEP fellow for a university that doesn't currently have one, and if it's possible to have one now who could then work through the February election cycle.
So I know for this upcoming election, it might be just a little tricky just because we're, about close to the time of the election. However, SEEP does, what I forgot to mention is that we do support our universities in other ways beyond the fellow. So if you want to do events or anything, we can provide materials and different and other resources like that to whatever office you want to run it through. And because some sites we just provided to them with a grant. But we also provide sites that aren't participating with the SEEP program with information, resources, T-shirts, banners, and other resources like that. So if that's something you would be interested in for this November election, I'll be happy to help you get those resources as well. And as far as the February cycle, I'm not sure as far as SEEP's plans going into February. So when I do get more information about that, I will let you know. I'll make that a point to ask.
Yeah, and I had asked SEEP if they were going to help do anything towards the February, and they basically said yes, but they weren't going to think about it until after November, which is basically what I think a lot of people are saying at this point. So we will keep you updated, but if you want to email me and Byron specifically, we can talk about some of the resources we still currently have from what we're doing with SEEP right now for the November election.
And just to clarify, for anyone who's on here who doesn't live in Chicago, the February election is specifically for Chicago, and the elections in other places of the state are later in the year.
Yeah.
Anybody want to ask any more questions? I have a few more. All right. So one of the things I hear a lot when working with institutions is absentee ballots and working with students who are living in Illinois on their campuses but voting in other states. So Nicole, I think this is probably more for you than anyone else, but sort of how are you supporting folks who are, trying to do that absentee piece?
Yeah, so I should clarify, make sure everybody understands BallotReady is a nationwide voter guide. So if you do have out-of-state students outside of Illinois, we offer their ballots as well, so they can vote absentee back home. So I recommend two things. Like on our site, on that Make a Plan to Vote tool, the second tool that I showed you, it does allow for you to select a button for absentee voting. And so you can select that button at your address and it will take you to the information about absentee voting because it's different in every state. So we direct you to, I believe on our page, the Secretary of State page for each state so you can learn about absentee voting. The other website we often send folks to are our friends over at vote.org, who have really helpful pieces of information about absentee voting in every state, because a lot of those deadlines in a lot of states are coming up very quickly. So you can use our Make a Plan to Vote tool. It'll send them to Secretary of State. You can send them to vote.org, but they can use the voter guide on our site no matter what.
Byron, have you worked with any institutions that are doing some interesting stuff around absentee voting, or who are focusing on helping students who are out of voting from their home state as opposed to Illinois?
So yeah, basically we just have provided them with the information that is online. Like we look at the specific information per each. So if someone from, like me, for example, I'm from Kentucky, but I will be voting for Illinois. But if I wanted to vote for Kentucky, we just, what the seat fellow would do would pull that information for these students and to work with them to get registered or find out how they can vote while they're away from their home state.
And I would just add on to make sure that that can apply to in-state students as well, who are from other parts of the state.
Yes,
making sure students who aren't local, who have moved from other parts of the state, also have that information is really important.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions that folks on the call might have about resources or anything? All right. I think I've exhausted my questions. Anything else anyone wants to add?
I would just add, I didn't mention, I'd put it in the chat. We do have video resources on how to register to vote, busting some voter myths, how to vote for judges, what the heck ballot measures are, and just some like fun little video ads for ballot parties. So be sure to check those out. If you want, I can send you an email that has like all the links if you want to kind of take that and embed it wherever or use it in your own email blast or newsletter. Shoot me an email or follow us on social media.
I'll also just add on that, again, I mentioned the voter guides are nationwide. I think Natalie mentioned there are a couple of folks from outside of Illinois even on the call. So the voter guides are nationwide, which is great for in-state and out-of-state. Ballot parties are also nationwide. So you can also get information about ballot parties even if you're not in Illinois. Unfortunately, you won't get to work with State Matters, which is sad. But at BallotReady, we're also doing them in other states. And so we're happy to provide that information for you as well.
Are you partnered with other nonprofits in other states, or?
It's just us in other states. So we also have the kit of resources and all of the same things, except for some of the really cool stuff that State Matters has put together, because they are the collective of artists. There are cool younger cousins who have put together some really neat resources for Illinois specifically. But we have the initiative here for everyone.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all so much. As I said, everything is on our website. I'll send out an email with this recording and with all this information again. If anyone has any questions or they didn't think of something and they want to follow up, I'll make sure to have everyone's contact information as well. And thank you, and let me know if there's anything else we can do. All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.